What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Verdependent podcast, where we depend on the Verde and Black for our everyday vibes. This week, we're vibing off recent preseason happenings. To no one's surprise, we're looking again at this roster that's shaping up and doing our first player profile of 2025 before closing out the episode with the stoppage time rundown of the hottest Austin FC, MLS, and World Footy storylines of the past week. I'm Paul Fletes, aka Lopal.
And I'm Logan Bartlett, aka Lobar.
And G, before we get started here, we're actually going to do a little bit of an intro to a new segment.
That's good.
And so, for the fans here, we don't have the best name yet. So if you think of something more clever, definitely let us know. But right now, what we've got here is this. It's just called League Correspondence. And what we mean by League Correspondence is that, we want to start by shining some light outside of Austin soccer and kind of highlighting, different leagues around the world and stuff like that. And so what we wanted to do is take two groups of leagues, basically the popular group of leagues that everyone knows, and then a group of leagues that maybe isn't as well known, but still aligns with the MLS calendar. So that way we're able to provide those updates, during the Austin FC season as well. So,
well said.
Yeah, that said, we've got a couple of leagues already lined up to kind of pick from. So what we're going to do is we got a list of like 5 in the popular group and then 5 in the non-popular group. And then we're going to do a random wheel generator, so to speak. And then we'll let you know what gets selected. And then from there on, once a month, we're essentially just kind of give you that correspondence of, what the table looks like in those leagues, who are the big players, the good clubs, the clubs that are in danger of relegation,
right? Storylines
and headlines and all that good stuff. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and list off the popular leagues. We've got obviously La Liga in Spain. We've got the German Bundesliga in Italy, Serie A, down south, Liga MX, and then over in the Netherlands, the Eredivisie. And so, without further ado, quite popular indeed. We're going to go ahead and start off by just randomly generating the quote unquote popular league that we're going to follow. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the generator wheel right now.
I'm finding this out live too.
Yeah.
Paul is fully in charge right now.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Okay.
It's Liga MX, isn't it?
It is definitely not Liga MX. As much as I would have loved that.
Okay.
It's everyone's favorite farmer league, Serie A.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. So we're going to be keeping up with.
Pulisic.
That's it. Yeah. The Americans abroad basically is what we're looking out for. So,
let's go.
Not bad.
That was my suggestion.
There you go, man. There you go. And now, for my favorite group of random, not clubs, but leagues here, we've got the J League, so the Japanese top flight league, the K League, similar in South Korea. We've got the League of Ireland, and in Sweden, we've got the Allsvenskan, and in Finland, we've got the Veikkausliiga. Okay, so Swedish, Finnish, Irish, Korean, or Japanese. Clicking now, and we're going to see which one of those leagues.
I'm realizing now that that's a very similar latitude of leagues, just across like the global latitude. They're all in a line of.
Yeah. Straight up. Funny. Do you have a guess as to what was selected, Lobar?
Probably League of Ireland.
Bro. Sadly not. That would have been cool, though. That would have been cool. We're actually looking at the J League.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. The J League, Blue Lock fans.
Funny enough, this was the first league that kind of sparked this idea months ago when we talked about it, because we were looking at their kits, I think, or something like that.
Yeah,
and just talking about how great the kits are in the J League.
Yeah,
and we're like, what if?
Yeah, man, and they've got a great. I think it's like free coverage, right? Like we can go out and look at those games, and it's you just create
very
an account.
Open access to their content, so that's good. They have a whole website that's dedicated. You can watch all the games.
Yeah,
that's going to be easy. I like it.
Nice, man. Nice. Well, I'm excited. I know for folks that are wondering, it's like, why the hell are we doing this? To kind of take it back to our roots a little bit as a podcast. When we were talking about like Verdependent and stuff like this, it was on the one track, we're very dependent on the Verde and Black for our everyday vibes, but we're also, the ability to be independent and maybe take a break off of the Austin FC track for a little bit and kind of look at the broader, world in terms of different leagues and stuff like that. So this is our kind of foray into that. And so we hope you enjoy. But without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and jump back into Austin FC land. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. But I'm very excited for Serie A and the J League.
Definitely more so J League because like Serie A is, it is what it is. But we're here for it. We're definitely here for it. All right. Well, let's jump into a little bit of first half here. We've got the Austin FC preseason update. Since we were together last, the club has been building off their first preseason result, putting 3 past USL side Charleston Battery while keeping clean sheet. The club also announced the contract extension of left back Jan Kolmanich, which I believe that's his second or third total extension.
Second right? Extension, third contract.
Yeah. Wow, bro. Anyway, which sees him staying through the end of 2026 with an option for 2027. And then, of course, the biggest headline focused on the latest club record transfer agreement for acquiring 29-year-old Albanian attacking DP Mirto Zuni. Lobar, as one who depends on the Verde Black for his everyday vibes, brother. Talk to us. How has the past week of preseason events treated you, man?
It's been a good week to depend on the Verde Black for my everyday vibes.
Hell yeah, dude.
It really has. I always forget how much excitement there is and like energy, just like internal energy. There's so much momentum toward the start of the season, and that's every year, man.
Always.
And this year it feels, I don't know. I don't want to say this is very pessimistic, but it feels deserved, right? Like up to this point, every offseason outside of the first year, maybe the second year with Driussi, right? But like going into our 4th season, we haven't been great.
Yeah.
There hasn't been much excitement with the managing staff, with our manager, with our leadership, right? There's always been this sense of like, I don't know, just some distrust at some points.
There's always just something holding us back, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there was always just something, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm excited just because I get to see my homies, I get to watch soccer, I get to be at Q2, right? And this kind of became a talking point throughout at least last year. Like the environment of Q2 really carried this club for too long, and it's time that's paid back to us in some way, and it's happened, in my opinion. Right, the club spent big, over $30 million in the last 6 months. They've spent smart spending, getting high quality players in Brandon Vasquez, Mirto Uzuni, right? Both guys that are proven in their respective leagues and their respective careers to be goal scorers, to be goal getters. We've made smart signings in Sabovic and Dubrsarski, Ilya Sanchez, etc. Like we're bringing in the right kind of signings to build out a top to bottom roster. Yeah. And so with Uzuni finally coming in, right, the Tom Bogert to Austin FC train of rumor to it's happening to the green smoke to it's official. It's happened, and it's an exciting time, man. It truly is. And I feel my excitement has been validated and earned in a way, because I'm going to feel this way regardless, just because I get to be back into watching soccer every week.
Right.
Austin FC soccer specifically. And so it's exciting, man. It feels I feel validated as a super fan that like, oh shit, like we did it. We have a legitimate roster that on paper and in practice should do well. Right.
Yeah.
So gone are the days of, I don't know, just underwhelming signings. And I hope now that these guys come in and prove their worth, you know? So what about you, man?
No, dude, I think I echo that 100%. And I think for not just myself, not just for you, but I think for our listeners and the rest of the fan base, I think you should feel okay in kind of overhyping it all a little bit, because this would be the first time ever, as a club that we just have an off-season, a transfer window of this magnitude.
Yep.
And I think I'm going to go on the record here and say like this will be like the inflection point of Austin FC's like history as a club, where you truly see that maturation of like, okay, like we were kind of floundering a bit as an expansion team, and then kind of trying to figure out our sea legs, and with Rodo at the helm now, this is definitely, he's signaling that like, hey, we're meaning to make waves and
to compete
and just get it done, man. So I'm excited. Every day it gets closer, man, and I'm ready to be back at Q2,
Yeah.
rocking with the crew, and
Yep.
yeah, man.
I was reading the article today that Tom Bogert put out, just looking at like what all of the 30 MLS teams need to do
Yeah,
ahead of this, like what signing should they prioritize, what decision needs to be made, and I was very excited to see that Tom Bogert said this might be the first time Austin doesn't really need to do anything. They've done
right.
everything they need to do. They spent big on proven talent. They
Hmm.
brought in reinforcements at positions of need. It's like you can make a case for a supplemental like roster center back, one more depth piece at midfield, and we'll get into this obviously in
Right.
halftime to echo that. But he was saying essentially what we were saying offline and planning this halftime segment.
Yeah.
Um, and so to that point, he mentioned specifically that the next transfer window starts in July, at the end of July,
Hmm.
and at that point we'll be 24 games into the season, which means 2/3 of all MLS play will have happened. And so truly, like, this winter transfer window is the most important transfer window in MLS to make a legitimate change for your club and to
Yes.
set yourself up for the
Overhaul.
most success in the season, right?
Hmm.
We don't have a smack dab in the middle transfer window. Window opens at week 25. There's the Leagues Cup break and other things that add to that now, but like, you have a few weeks to get a guy in, to get him training and to get him playing before all of a sudden you're in week 30. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's hard to see. I mean, we saw that with guys like Svatok, with guys like Bukhari, Driussi,
Previous
Rigoni in the
regime,
past,
right? Yeah.
right? Where we bring in our big, quote unquote, big signing in
Hmm.
the summer, and then they play 6 games, they play 8 games, they start 2 games
Yep.
in the season, and that season's already lost, right?
Yeah.
And so finally capitalizing on the most important offseason every season
Hmm.
and setting ourselves up for a huge chunk of success going into 2/3 of the season rather than the last few games of a season is refreshing.
Hell yeah.
I like
Yeah,
it.
man. Well, I think you segue that beautifully into this halftime where we do a roster check-in. So let's go ahead and jump into that.
Yeah.
As of recording, January 28th, in terms of roster availability, here's where things stand. Right now, we have one senior spot available with
Mhm.
5 supplemental spots left. So while, yes, that's 6 roster spots total, give or take with those supplementals, it's like their relative importance. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Weighted
Um,
importance is very different.
Exactly. There are 2 U22 spots available, but only one senior spot left to really allocate. So
Yeah.
as of things right now, there are no international spots, right? Unless someone gets transferred out or gets a
Yeah.
green card or what have you. So there are multiple ways to slice it here, but Lobar, you got plenty of thoughts, my guy. So what are you thinking
Yeah.
here?
I mean, we're speaking the MLS dialect here, which is almost indecipherable by all but a few crazy people.
Right. Sickos,
I
I
find
believe they're called.
I'm very loosely fluent in MLS,
Hmm.
and I lean on a lot of people to understand. So what all this means is essentially the two U22 spots piece is really important there,
Hmm.
because we've elected to be a 3DP 3U22 team, right?
Hmm.
As of summer 2024, all MLS clubs were allowed to choose one of 2 paths with their
Hmm.
6 kind of catch-all big spending spots, those
Right.
being DPs, U22s. You can either pick 3 and 3, or you can pick 2 DPs, 4 U22s. You get a little extra money if you go that route.
Yeah.
We've clearly gone the 3 and 3 route. And as a club who has yet to really hit on a U22 spot, those are very valuable moving forward.
Right.
So right now we just have Dubrsarski, right? Is he the
He's
U22?
just the only one right
Yeah,
now because the extension, even I think
yeah,
the previous one for Jean was what got him out of.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So the important piece to look at that is we have 2 spots open, but only one senior roster spot. According to MLS rules and regulations, all U22 players have to occupy a senior roster spot, one of the 20 full salary
Right.
spots. U22 obviously gives you some flexibility there, but with that, that's where you want to spend big on long-term talent, right? Dubrsarski is on the team through 2030. Like he has 4 or 5 years guaranteed with an option year,
Yeah.
and that's a guy that those are the types of profiles you want to take on these spots.
Correct.
So again, to summarize all that, we only have room to sign one U22 guy because we only have one senior roster spot available,
Hmm.
but we have 2 U22 spots open. So in my opinion, we're losing value there. We're limiting ourselves to our highest ceiling by not opening up an extra spot to be a U22 guy maybe in the summer. Maybe we're
Right.
going to fill that 20th spot with the second U22 guy, but then we're not maximizing that 3-3, you know?
Yeah.
And as a team who has historically not maximized the value of these DP and U22 spots, I like to see that change.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the senior spot rosters, and I'm seeing names that really one name that I think is the most likely candidate to be sold out. And this is depending on what we do with Damian Loss,
Right.
but Stephen Cleveland as the second goalkeeper on this club. As much as I love the guy, he seems like a perfect culture fit for the team.
Yeah.
Anakin Skywalker, he was him in the League's Cup. Like I really value him on this team, but for what we're spending for him in terms of a senior roster spot, when we need a second one open to sign a U22 guy, which will automatically have higher value than our second backup goalkeeper, he's a guy that I see as the most likely candidate to be sold out to make space for that. Now, do I think we're actually going to do that? I'm not sold. I don't know if we're actually going to maximize and make sure we're using all three U22 spots.
Yeah.
Is there some other plan in the works where we are looking at like a homegrown DP kind of guy or homegrown Generation Adidas guy? I don't know how those rules work. Can we re-sign a guy like, I don't know, Micah Burton to like out of his homegrown contract into a U22? I'm assuming no, but I don't truly know what flexibility there is there or what loopholes Roto might have in mind to maximize those spots. So all that to say is we've done great. We're in a great spot with the roster, but there's more we can do, right? Like we have two U22 spots that we could sign, but we can only use one right now because of the way our roster is set up.
Yeah.
The reason I bring up Cleveland, and I'll tie this up here, is, I don't mind having two senior spots filled with goalkeepers. I think it was Phil West, actually, an article that said that he mentioned that might not be the norm historically, to where most backup keepers have a supplemental roster spot. I don't want to misquote him. So I think it was him kind of mentioning that in one of his emails. But all that to say is, regardless, with Brad Stuver as our goalkeeper one, who's only missed a handful of games for a freak accident on a half field shot against Houston Dynamo where he cut his knee on the goal. He's been healthy. He is a top 5 goalkeeper in this league, in many's opinion. There's no reason to be wasting value on a guy like Stephen Cleveland. No offense. The value of his senior spot is so much more than what he brings to this club. When we have a guy like Damian Loss, who is a homegrown or Generation Ideas or whatever qualification he has on a supplemental spot, who could just hold down the goalkeeper 2 spot. He's been on this club for 3 years now. He's proven he's talented at both MLS, Next Pro, and USL. So I'll stop talking there. But I'm just looking at, like, we have more value to be capitalized on
from the roster. Yeah,
exactly. And so I'd like to see us use that somehow.
Hell yeah, man.
What do you think? And I think I spoke for a good 5 minutes straight there, just like bouncing around MLS language. And
No, you kept it going. No, I agree with you, but I think I'm coming from it from a like every Austin FC fan just kind of recognized, for the past 4 years, this roster was never really moving at the way that it should have been until Roto came around, right, and started, making those pieces work. But I think for us, the big pieces for me are always going to be those 3 designated player spots.
Yes,
and
agreed.
It feels like we have hit on all 3 of those as it stands right now. Two of those unproven, right? With that, well, you can argue obviously Brandon Vasquez, right, because he was a goal scorer in this league and in Liga MX, but also just in terms of like how this is going to be set up in Austin under Nico Estevez. But
he still needs to show up and get some goals before we can say it's a win.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. But but on paper, again, it's like those 3 seem to really be hitting. And then as for the U22s, while there is the maximalist approach where it's like, let's get as much as we can for that, I think what I generally see across the league is that folks kind of hold off on that a little bit, where they don't try to maximize the full value of their U22 spots and try to really fill out the rest of the 20 senior spots with folks that are contributing at a high level.
Yeah, who can contribute immediately. Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, man, I'm with you though. If we're really gunning to push, and not even just to compete, but also be a top market, in MLS, where we're bringing players in, turning them for a good profit. It's like you want all of that. You want all those pieces to be gelling for sure.
Yeah. To counter myself based on what you said, like, I'll use the kitchen analogy that the fan base has used for Roto.
Yeah.
Just because you can have 6 prime stakes in DPs and U22s, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you'll have enough time, space, or bellies to cook them all and eat them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, we could have 6 super high quality, ingredients in the kitchen, but if the recipe only calls for 4, then all you need is 4. The other 2 are going to spoil, and then
Right.
you're kind of wasting money on something you're not actually going to use.
Mm.
So that's a good point there too, right?
Yeah.
In terms of what we're going to put on the field, barring injury,
Yeah.
it may be that we have all we need. Maybe we're going to sign one more to fill that last roster spot, and we had that guy pinned down already. We just haven't seen the smoke yet. But yeah, I mean, to that point, I'm nitpicking is my point. Like, it would be great to see us capitalize on that value and to see those 6 roster spots be used for 6 of our most important players.
For sure.
But it doesn't mean we have to.
Yeah.
So,
hey man,
that's the state of the
perfection.
roster.
Perfection is the thief of joy, my guy.
Yeah, exactly. And to quote Tom Bogert again, like, we don't need to do anything on paper, right?
Yeah.
We have spots to use.
Yeah.
We can use a couple of them to just get some insurance, another center back, another midfielder maybe that can play a couple positions, as a guy that can spot and play a few games here or there, or play in the Open Cup, which we'll get to in stoppage, but like a few more guys to be able to just run around and soak up minutes.
For sure.
But we don't need them to be our best team. So
feel that, man. Feel that.
Yeah.
Well, word, man. Well, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to kick off the first player profile of 2025 on the Ukrainian unit at the back, center back, Oleksandr Svatok.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And we're back. Before we get started, we just wanted to take a quick second to shout out the folks that responded to the ask for players that we're looking for to profile basically for this season. And so we've got those names going, we got a list going. And so just understand that if we don't get to, that player that you responded to or, suggested this week, we've got it in the bank, but we just really want to say thank you for that engagement. But let's go ahead and jump into our very first player profile of 2025, Oleksandr Svatok.
Yep. I'm here for it.
Yeah. After closing out the 2024 season with 4 starts and 6 matches played, Svatok didn't take long to showcase his defensive presence on the back line. The Ukrainian international started his professional career in 2014, spending 6 seasons in the Ukrainian Premier League, making 83 appearances from 2014 to 2016, before taking a 2-year stint in the top-tier Croatian league. Following that, Svatok returned to the Ukrainian Premier League for 5 seasons before joining Austin FC last summer through 2027 with an option for 2028. Lobar, what separates him from other CBs on the roster and in this league?
I mean, you could see it in just the handful of games he played for this club. He brings a type of presence onto the field that I think we haven't seen in our back line ever, that I can remember at least. He's calm, cool, collected, all the things, composed, patient, on the ball, all the qualities that we've seen in guys like Julio Cascante, Ruben Gabrielson, and whatnot. But I'll correct myself a little bit. In terms of the way, like his fire and passion and just like presence and the way he kind of dominates on the field is in line with Ruben Gabrielson, and I think even more elevated, right? Yeah. Like Ruben was off the field, Gabrielson, he was laughing, he was having a good time, he's joking around and whatnot. And Svatok might be that way as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of what we've seen, and like he doesn't smile. Not that he isn't a happy guy, but he seems very serious and locked in.
Stoic.
Stoic. Yep, that's a good way to describe it. And so I think he just adds this vein of toughness that we just haven't seen from this club. I think the best comparison outside of the back line that I would say on this club would be Alex Ring. In his prime, he has the fire. He's demonstrative on the field, right? Yeah. He stands up. He knocks people down when they're getting in his teammates' face.
Yeah.
Similar to Ruben, right? A guy we've seen do that as well on the field. So I think it's just something that our team is lacking. And or was lacking and is no longer, is that just brawn, that iron, that toughness that I really like to see.
Yeah.
What about you, man? How would you compare him across the league on this team, et cetera?
Yeah, so I think to start off at the team level, I think what separates him is kind of going to what you're saying is just I think he instinctively is just like is defense like and defense only. You know, like you look at
Yes.
someone like Julio, who I've often been on the pod calling him a shadow striker, good, you know, sometimes offensive presence when needed, but like
He's a target man for sure.
a
Yeah.
target man, right? Yeah, and then like thinking back to Ruben was also very like no bullshit, you know, very defensive
Hmm.
minded as well. But Svatok is definitely very much like in line with, you know, that back third is sacred. Like you don't mess with it,
Yep.
and so I appreciate that because you know I want my starting center back to definitely just feel like this is you know what I'm responsible for, and like
Yep.
there's nothing else that I need to be worried about. That
Yeah.
said, oh, go ahead.
No, go for it, bro.
I was just saying, that said, across the league, who I'm reminded of immediately when I think of CB of this profile is LAFC's Murillo.
I had a feeling you were going to say Mario. That was
Because
like right when you said, "Yep."
the physical, you know, like build presence and all that stuff, like that dude is a big guy, and like
Yep.
he's very quick to try and impose himself on the opposing team's attack.
Yeah.
And we haven't necessarily seen that level of you know presence from Svatok, but I get the feeling that you know he will make himself felt
Yeah.
to the
I
opposing
think
attack.
that's the player he is. We haven't
Yeah,
seen it because he hasn't played much.
exactly.
And I'll say, you know, when we got to see him on the share the field with Brandon Vasquez in that
Right.
season, that open practice,
Hmm.
and Vasquez looking at strikers across the league, he's probably the biggest body in the league. Vasquez, he's like 6'4", giant dude,
Hmm.
very very commanding presence,
Yeah.
and Svatok stood up to him. You
Yeah.
know, they're essentially the same build, just different sides of the field,
Yep.
which is good. I like that. You know,
Right.
like I don't think a guy like Jeremy Bobasi is going to dunk on Svatok
No.
in the way that he's dunked on every other center back in our history.
Yeah.
Right, like these big presence guys, strikers that Svatok stands up to them and towers over many of them.
Hmm.
And so I'm adding on to that, like Murillo, that physicality, profile of just like I am a defender. That's what I do. You know,
Right. Yeah.
it's exciting. And you look at his stats; there aren't many online. Like the Ukrainian and Croatian league didn't track a lot of advanced stats. It doesn't seem like, but he has a handful of assists and I think like 3 goals in his
Yeah.
entire career in 10 years, and I like that
Yeah. There was
because
a
that
good
means
towering header that I saw, you know, from a few years ago. I think he was
yep,
DNI Pro or something like that. But the way he celebrates, and everyone has seen that glare, you know, that he has.
yes,
But just think of it in like a positive way.
yeah,
Dear God, I did not want to be on the other side of that.
no,
But
not at all, not at
yeah,
all.
man. Yep, yep, yep. Well, I think, you know, in terms of what separates him, I feel like we're in agreement there. But
Yeah.
in terms of starting quality, I mean, this is a no-brainer, right? He's got to be in the starting 11.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think like again, you look at and this isn't anything to write home about, but our best defensive year as a club was 2022, right? In terms of goals allowed, like very minor defensive or advanced analytics
Hmm.
on defense. It was the year we had Ruben and Julio together, right?
Hmm.
And I think Svatok brings that quality of player that Julio thrives against. And this is assuming Julio is the starter next to him. I mean, Heinz Like has a case for it. Leo
Right.
Väisänen, in terms of just like what we paid him and what we expected of him,
Yeah.
expectations are that he should be in the back line as well.
Yeah.
Will he meet those expectations? We don't know. But
Hasn't.
assuming Julio's our guy next to him, like he's the perfect kind of profile to put next to a dude like Julio, where
Yeah.
there's just that stalwart presence,
Hmm.
consistency of confidence, exuding a presence defensively.
He's that like let Julio play out of the back. You know,
Yep.
I'm gonna make sure to play cleanup. Right. You know,
Yes.
like that's kind of the vibe there.
Yeah, you give me the ball, I'll get it to Danny, I'll get it to the Bidu or whoever, but otherwise I'm chilling. Like
Yeah.
let me watch the attack and watch the press and make sure we don't
Yeah.
get
Get got.
capitalized against. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, oh yeah, starting 11 for sure. I mean, who else? Who else would it be?
I mean, bro.
There's no combination of 2 center backs on this team that should be starting over Svatok, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
All respect to Julio, Leo, Heinz.
Yeah, your starting one has to include Svatok for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yep.
I always forget, that Julio tends to kind of be more or less a sponge of the other CB that he's paired with. So I think, he gets a automatic defensive boost there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Just knowing that behind
mhm,
him is unfettered confidence and
for sure.
strength. He's like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
I can do whatever right here. I can fuck around.
exactly.
And that's when Julio thrives most, is
Yeah.
when he has that freedom to be creative in the buildup.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, man.
For sure, for sure. Well, I know you were mentioning something off air about how Svatok has this quote unquote like underrated pedigree.
Hmm.
So tell the listeners what you mean on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of playing time in Austin, he hasn't got much yet,
Right.
by no fault of his own. But I think the profile of player that we see, right? He isn't flashy.
Mm-mm.
Um, his salary, he's only making 300K.
Right.
That alone, right there, is like, oh shit, you're one
Masterful.
of the lower paid players on this club, and yet you're a regular on the Ukrainian national team that's vying for a
World
spot in the
Club
World
berth.
Cup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, I think those two pieces, just basic alone, the contrast of his salary versus his national team pedigree.
Yeah.
Think of another center back on our club. We mentioned it already multiple times this episode. Julio Cascante is
Yeah.
making what, 750K or some shit like that.
Too much.
He's a national team fringe guy. Svatok seems to be confident that he'll be on the game day roster for all of the 2026,
Correct.
25, 26 competitions, and be on the World Cup roster. You know,
Yeah.
and that's a dude who is making pennies. And so
Yeah.
I think that alone right there is like, he has been underpaid in terms of what his potential could be.
Right.
And in terms, like, for this club, seeing as we haven't seen him in a full starting capacity yet,
Yeah.
I think second to that is that he has the perfect makeup for a leader and for a captain. Will he hold the captain's band this season? Probably not, given that
Mm-hmm.
there's guys like Julio and Stuver on the club who already have. There's Ilya Sanchez who's coming in, who's a perfect profile for that as well.
Sure.
But in terms of just, you think of a Ruben, right? A guy like that. I'll mention him again. You think of Stuver when he's not the captain. Like, they are leaders on the pitch.
Yeah.
They're there tussling with the opposing team in skirmishes. They're there picking up their players. They're literally staring ice through the opposing attackers. That's what
Right.
Svatok does. So he has that demeanor, and that he just has your back
Yeah.
on the field. And in terms of an on-field leader, that's what I want. That's what I look for.
For sure.
Similar to Alex Rink, right? He was the same way. He'll get in your face. He'll go shout at the ref on your behalf.
Mm-hmm.
He'll, shepherd you away and talk shit with you after you get a yellow card. Make sure you don't get a second. That's what I see in Svatok. So when I think underrated in that way, like the fact that we're even having a conversation of, will he be a starter? There's even a hint of uncertainty, is enough to say, like, oh yeah, this dude, he's about to prove that he's rated. You know what I mean? And so I don't know, man. That's just my take on that. Like, he's a guy that I think is going to prove his value very quick this season for us.
For sure.
And be a big reason why we succeed.
I feel that. Well, hell yeah, man. I'm excited. I know that when we picked him up, the first thing that you and I both thought of was that, like, okay, there's a degree closer to, Misha.
Misha, yeah, exactly.
The winger over at Chelsea.
Now.
But all that to say is, the best is yet to come, I think, with Svatok. And so, this is going to be a good defensive year, man. It's just straight up like,
that's my hot take. That's my uninformed prediction.
Oh yeah.
We'll get to those later.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up and head into some stoppage time. Yeah.
Cool. Let's do it, man.
Let's do it. So to start off, big one here. We've got Austin FC will be participating in the U.S. Open Cup in 2025, and that's the first team, no second team.
Austin
that is
FC
one.
End. Yeah. Period.
Yes, exactly. They are one of 16 teams in the MLS to participate. Go off.
Give us San Antonio FC, bro.
Yeah.
We need that rematch. I want Brandon Vasquez to dunk on those dudes in a single half and send them home packing.
Yeah.
Now, all jokes aside, though, I'm excited that the league is rethinking and reshaping how MLS teams participate
Sure.
in tournaments and competitions.
Yeah.
Without getting into too much detail, the league essentially asked, or U.S. Soccer announced today, that the way that clubs will be assigned to Leagues Cup as a competition, to the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and to U.S. Open Cup. And so there's a little bit of overlap, but for the most part, if you made it to both, if you made it to the Champions Cup, you made it to Leagues Cup, which means you're not playing Open Cup, right? So kind of the lower half of MLS is making it automatically into the Open Cup. Not all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'm excited. Back to Austin's.
I am too. And for the sole reason that I think this is going to be the quickest path to a trophy that matters for us in this season. And so while I hear a lot of folks saying like, oh man, but Leagues Cup had that aura and blah, blah, blah. Like we went off last year. It's like, yeah, but like, I don't know, man. I like this quicker route.
Yeah. This is a century of history.
Yeah, man. And with this roster, are you kidding me, bro? Like,
yeah.
This is going to be a good opportunity to have that rotation, that B squad come out for those first couple of early round games, and then just unleash, in that final matchup.
Exactly.
So I'm excited.
I think the other clubs that aren't participating put in their MLS Next Pro teams, or a handful of them did. Mm-hmm. So like San Diego FC, for example, got an auto berth into Leagues Cup because it's their first year.
Right.
And so I didn't see if their affiliate team is going in place of, but clubs like that who are participating, LAFC, for example, I think their second team's in.
For sure.
Which I want to point that out real quick. A lot of people are mad that LAFC doesn't get to defend their title. And I would agree there.
Yeah. Because that one is...
Yeah, because they qualified to the Champions Cup because of that. And then they finished top 9 in the West, so they made it to Leagues Cup.
Yeah.
So
it is definitely imperfect, but
it's the least valued of the national competitions.
Yeah.
According to the seeding. So anyway.
For sure. Moving on, we've got MLS moving their their production arm to studios at WWE, centralizing the league's multimedia efforts in a state-of-the-art facility.
Yep. So reading this, there's an article that was published about it that you shared a couple days ago. Essentially, once the Apple TV deal was made, MLS owned all of the production, their marketing production,
right,
and everything, their video production, their game day production, everything. They were the ones running it. It was decentralized. They had one facility out in Harlem, if I remember correctly, where they were doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but then they had different crews at each game in like a truck doing the rest, and then sending that off to the central office. So now everything is centralized in like a 30,000 square foot facility run by WWE, one of the most successful entertainment groups in the history of humanity. They know how to put on a damn show, dude. And so the fact that I think the bet here is that the quality and the production and pumping out content is all going to be elevated because of this access and availability to space, resources, state of the art, everything. Right. So,
well, Stone Cold Steve Austin used to say, hell yeah, brother. So,
yes, sir.
That's all I got. I did not grow up with wrestling, unfortunately. I didn't have the heart, but
it's funny. I had a dream that after reading this article like 2 nights ago, after you sent it to me, I was just thinking about WWE. I was like, damn, that shit is really successful, huh?
Yeah.
I had a weird dream back to like my 8, 9, 10-year-old self, where there was a weird phase where I had a handful of WWE action figures.
Hell yeah.
And it just like took me back to that point. Like, oh shit, I forgot I did that. Like I had Booker T and Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
No Kane. No. I was
a
Rey
dude,
Mysterio
man.
guy.
That's the one I remember looking at. I was like, dang, he's scary.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I was Rey Mysterio, dude. Hit that 619. So
anyway. Right on.
San Diego.
Hell yeah. Let's move on to Baltimore, where the Orioles have dropped their latest concession pricing. And Lobar, you shared this one with me.
Yeah. They announced a new concessions menu for like the value menu, I guess you could say.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, it's 11 items on the menu, all $5 or less. So you get like peanuts, the classic baseball foods: peanuts, popcorn, water, hot dogs, beer. It's $5 or less. The reason we brought this up is because, one, it made it into our circles through Lojo and others, but then it made the rounds where Austin FC fans were like, wait, what the,
right.
Give me that, dude. And so I wanted to bring it up because a lot of people will point to a lot of people make jokes specifically about like the electric jellyfish, right?
Yes.
The IPA being 17 or 18 bucks a Q2, and everybody's saying like, oh, we signed Brandon Vasquez because I get 3 electric jellyfishes every game.
Right.
Like that money went to buying Vasquez. To which I'll say, you're probably right. And to which I'll argue that, bringing this concession pricing would actually make them even more money, because the electric jellyfish people, they might fuck around on the value menu for a little bit, but they're going to end back up getting T-Locks and electric jellyfish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're going to end back into that space because they can afford it, the vibes, whatever. For everybody else who does not buy a single thing at Q2, like myself and yourself and so many other people I know, I'm going to be hitting up that concession stand every game. Yeah. I'm going to know that I can go in with $10, get a burger or get a hot dog, popcorn, and a water and be like, I'm good. You know?
Yeah.
And not break the bank. You're making extra money because all the electric jellyfish people are going to stay there. Yeah. And everybody else who doesn't spend $1 is going to spend at least $5. Yeah. Getting a hot dog or something. So that's just my take on that. I think we should do something like that. I think it's blasphemy how expensive concessions are. I do respect that it props up local business.
Sure.
But I've seen behind the curtain a little bit, and I know they're not making shit. So
right.
There's
that's another episode, G.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, give me $5 hot dogs.
Yeah.
Now.
Right. No, I feel that, man. I feel that. Yeah. Respectfully, I've just never grown up really enjoying like popcorn at a game or peanuts, bro. Like all the fucking shells.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff
baseball shit. Yeah.
I'm just saying, man. It's
I know what you mean.
And you don't even get like full off of that. So I don't know.
Bro, give me a couple dogs and a beer for like $13.
If it's dogs, bro, we're eating. We're gobbling those glizzies. You know what I'm saying?
Bro, imagine like I don't want to take away. We don't have to spend too much time on this, but I don't want to take away from the like local vendors who deserve our business.
No,
that
for
like
sure.
Taco spots that are actually good at Q2. Yeah. Like go to those if you can. Yeah. But like imagine just some like basic ass like $3.50 tacos, just like brisket or some shit. Whatever it is, like a beef fajita. Yeah, fajita chicken, and that's it. It's like onions, peppers, chicken, $3 per taco, $4 hot dog. Like, give us something like more local to Austin, not just peanuts and baseball food. But like, imagine that kind of version of that, where it's $5 tacos, $5 hot dogs. Like, that's more attainable for a lot of people. So,
I got you.
Anyway,
yeah. Well, looking on the women's side of things, we've got the NWSL dropping their schedule last week. And as part of that, it shows that they are re-adding the decision day and like the rivalry week.
Like
rivalry
MLS
week, like MLS, right?
What do you think of that?
Yeah, man, I think this is going to be, it's nice to have like decision day because I feel like that was a big deal 2 years ago. Not sure why they decided to opt away from that. I'm sure that media partners and broadcasting had something to do with it, but
right.
But it's good to see it. It's it's almost back, and
I would imagine the growth of the league too, like adding a couple teams since then and growing their playoffs probably played into it as well. Now that decision day means just a little bit more because there's more clubs to get in, so there's like a more parity among a larger group.
Sure.
Vying for those spots, so it probably has a little bit more stake to it now. They're like, oh, cool, we have 16 teams, is that right, or 18?
I think it's 16, but
16. But still, like that's a larger number of teams where like half the league could be fighting for those positions.
Yeah,
the last week. So I like it.
Well, I saw recently too. I think it was in the Austin Anthem Discord, but there's already a schedule out of like Austin FC and NWSL double game weekends.
Yeah.
So definitely like be on the lookout for that. For away trips and stuff like that. Yeah.
Real quick, just because you mentioned schedule, it dropped my mind. We didn't put it in the list here, but the Austin FC2 schedule was announced.
Oh yeah.
We didn't really put much into. I know their first game's in March. I think maybe March 17th or some shit like that. But that's dropped too. So hopefully, we'll be at games here and there where we can. Go support the second team.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Looking on to the next point, we've got Neymar coming back to Santos after making just 3 appearances for Al Hilal, reportedly a 6-month contract with a return to Europe in the plans.
Yep. He's going back home so that he can go back to Spain, is what I'm reading.
El Ney.
Yeah, because his contract got terminated in Al Hilal. Was it injuries and just unenthusiastic?
I mean, I'm going to keep it real, brother. I don't care about the dude. I don't
No,
follow
I
him
know,
like that.
but I know a lot of people do. And this is just it's an interesting,
Yeah.
it's just an interesting development, right? He goes
Yeah.
to Al Hilal for the bag. It doesn't work out for whatever the reasons are.
Right.
And then he's like, fuck it, I'm going to go home for 6 months,
Yeah.
all out, get back into form, and then end up back in Europe. But that's the plan, at least.
Yeah.
Whether that happens or not will remain to be seen. But
see, I'm thinking of like like the Chelsea boy in me is looking at someone like Oscar, from that was playing over in the Chinese Super League for the longest, getting that bag, comes back to Brazil playing for Sao Paulo, which Austin fans will remember.
yep.
We got a certain number 7 from there.
Yep.
Scores his first goal back in his home country, Brazil, goes crazy, and
Yeah.
fuck Neymar,
So, hey,
bro. That's where I'm at. But anyway,
yeah, I know. It was just a cool,
yeah.
it's weird roster moves a la MLS where like guys are jumping around in weird ways to try to get back where they want to
exactly.
be. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Chelsea, the Chelsea women, they did their thing and
Yep,
thumped
as
Arsenal at the
always.
bridge 1-0.
Yep.
And do we need to talk about this other
Nah,
part?
let's just stay there. I think, was it 12 unbeaten in the league now?
Yeah, 12 unbeaten, bro. It's crazy.
Most wins.
Yeah, man. And they just signed Germa right last week, so it's
Yep, from San Diego. Yep.
love to see it, man. Love to
And
see it.
she's pegged to be like a legitimate starter for the club. Like they're seeing her like in the investment as like, oh, you're going to be starting. You're going to be fighting for the top first 11. And we saw the Chelsea women's club, like they're not to be messed with.
Yeah.
A lot of the ladies have been around a long time. We saw Emma Clark's last year.
Yeah.
And
Hayes.
and what did I say? Why is Emma Clark in my head? I'm trying to remember who that is. Emma Hayes.
Yeah.
Lojo's going to flame me for that. I already know it.
You're gonna
Emma Hayes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Emma Hayes is last year. I know her name, I promise.
right.
And we saw her last year, and a lot of that roster is left over still.
Yeah.
And they're ballers,
it's a good core for sure. Yeah. And it's just interesting because I think what they're doing right now is just tooling that team to win a Champions League because that's all that's left.
Yep.
For them. They win the league annually at this point. But yeah.
They're adding
someone who
talent,
hasn't won the league in a really long time.
Is it the men's team?
We're going to talk about the men's for a little bit.
Yeah, I figured you wanted to.
It was time.
On the flip side, Chelsea men's got thumped.
Bro,
and Man City.
Who else but Chelsea will score in the opening 3 minutes of a game on the road at City and then drop,
Drop 3 straight
points
goals, create next to nothing for the next 86 minutes.
Yeah. Hey, but Robert Sanchez, hey, he's not.
Rumors are now that the pressure's there and he might not be the guy, which we all knew already. But apparently Maresca is getting pressure from the booster group, the leadership group, saying like, "Hey, what the fuck? Like, stop backing this guy. He's shit. What are we doing? Why are you running out on Holland sprinting down the right flank when he's outside of the box still?
Right.
On the furthest corner of the box. Why are you sprinting out and then not sprinting your ass back in front of goal when Chalobah recovers? What the fuck are you doing?"
Right. Yeah,
so they want him sold. That was what they said, not me.
That's wild. I know for me, man, all I'm seeing is that like we haven't actually. It's only been a regression since about November. Really, December is when you can really start to tell Chelsea's
right before the
dip
holidays.
in form. Yeah. And since then, we haven't picked up, and sure, injuries here or there, but every team's got them. Dude, I'm starting to get to that like Enzo, be careful, dog. Like not Enzo out, but like Enzo, be careful. You know what I'm saying?
Like
because
you got to pick it up.
You got to figure it out, man. All I know is Tuchel would never. But anyway,
shout out Emma Hayes.
Yeah, yes, bro. But yeah, anyway, that's the end of Stoppage there. So we appreciate y'all kicking it with us as always on this week's episode of the Verdependent podcast. I'm Paul. You can catch me on Twitter at PaulAndrewFC. That's a government name.
That's a government name, bro. That's a government. It always will be.
Yeah.
And I'm Logan Bartlett. You can find me on Twitter at LobarVHLM.
Yes. And you can keep the chatter going online by following at the Verdependent on socials.
And speaking of social, I wanted to add one. And Paul, I don't know if you even noticed this yet, but last night I did upload our last 2 episodes to YouTube, to where we do have a YouTube page.
Hey, yo!
So I know many of our listeners are on Apple, where the videos don't load automatically like Spotify. Even the folks on Spotify, you might just not be dedicated to watching at this point.
We
but
don't do a whole lot.
no,
Right.
we're just sitting here
We're
with
just
like
standing
a
here.
random dog and a cat will walk by everyone once in a while or
Right,
whatever.
right.
But regardless, if you want to just have us on like on the screen and see what we're talking about, see our
Yeah.
fire fits, I got the Howler Bros UT polo on today. Like
I got the
that's
much hated barcode kit.
exactly. You can watch us be awkward and talk too much.
Yes.
And it's a fun time. So anyway, check out the YouTube. We'll be uploading consistently there, much like Goals TV, where you can still find us, our videos. But YouTube is an option now. So just look up the Verdependent on the tube and we'll be there.
Hell yeah.
That is all.
Dope. Well, that's an episode, y'all. Peace.
All right. Peace, y'all. Oh, why are you screaming at me?
Oh my God.